Imagine a fitness brand so massive that its valuation sits comfortably beyond $1.4 billion. A brand whose clothing is worn in virtually every commercial gym, weight room, and fitness studio on the planet. Its signature animal logo is tattooed onto the culture of an entire generation of athletes, lifters, and everyday gym-goers. It generates hundreds of millions in revenue every single year without owning a single traditional manufacturing plant and without ever taking a single penny from venture capitalists during its formative years. Now, take a look at where that empire actually started.
It's 2011. You are 19 years old. You are sitting in the driver's seat of a battered second-hand hatchback in the dreary evening drizzle of Birmingham, England. The car smells permanently of old engine oil, damp carpet, and warm pepperoni pizza. Your hands are covered in grease, and your bank account is practically empty. You spend your mornings sitting in university lecture halls, struggling to stay awake. You spend your evenings driving through the rain, delivering pizzas for £5 an hour. And you spend your nights in a freezing concrete garage, squinting under a single hanging light bulb, teaching yourself how to operate a sewing machine.
Your family is worried you are burning yourself out. Your friends think your obsession is completely unrealistic. The multi-billion-dollar corporate giants of the sports apparel world don't even know you exist. They have no idea that within a few short years, you will completely reinvent modern marketing, ignite a global fitness revolution, and build one of the fastest-growing apparel companies in human history. This is the untold story of how you went from a broke 19-year-old delivery driver to a self-made billionaire. Chapter 1. The Serial Builder. To understand how you got here, you have to realize that you were never built for a conventional path. Growing up in the English West Midlands, school felt slow. The classroom was built for compliance, but your brain was wired for creation. While other 12-year-old kids were playing video games after school, you were sitting at a desktop computer with a stack of borrowed library books, teaching yourself raw HTML and basic web architecture. You didn't want to play in digital worlds, you wanted to build them. Your first venture was an online store selling custom license plates. You didn't have a warehouse or inventory, you acted as the middleman, taking orders, sourcing products, and fulfilling deliveries. It wasn't about the money, it was about the thrill of seeing a digital line of code turn into a real transaction in the physical world. By the time you turned 17, you found your second obsession, the gym. You fell in love with weight training. It gave you the same feeling as coding. In the gym, the feedback loop was pure and uncompromising. If you put in the reps, you grew stronger. If you cheated the weight, you failed. There were no shortcuts, no politics, and no excuses. Naturally, you decided to combine your two loves, fitness and software development. From your childhood bedroom, working late into the night, you taught yourself how to program mobile apps for Apple's new App Store. Your first app was a fitness calorie tracker. Nobody downloaded it. You built a second one, a database of workout routines. It flopped completely. You built a third. Total silence. Most people quit after 3 consecutive failures. They take it as a sign from the universe that they aren't cut out for it. You didn't quit. You built a fourth app, a simple, highly focused workout guide called Fat Loss Abs Guide. This time, something caught fire. Within weeks, the app climbed the charts, eventually hitting number 1 in the UK App Store fitness category. It made you a few £100s a month. It wasn't life-changing wealth, but it gave you proof of a fundamental truth. If you build something that genuinely solves a problem you have yourself, other people will pay for it. Chapter 2. The Void on the Gym Floor. By 2012, you were 19 years old, enrolled as an undergraduate at Aston University, and training in the gym 5 to 6 days a week. You were surrounded by other young, ambitious lifters.
You were part of a new, emerging subculture. You weren't old-school 300-pound massive bodybuilders, and you weren't casual weekend joggers either. You were young, athletic guys who wanted to build aesthetic, lean physiques. Yet every time you stepped onto the gym floor, you noticed a glaring problem. The clothes available on the market were completely wrong for your generation. On one side, you had legacy bodybuilding apparel. Brands like Gold's Gym and World Gym made clothes designed for massive 250-pound behemoths. Their stringers were gigantic, baggy, and looked like oversized circus tents on a normal, athletic 19-year-old. On the other side, you had the corporate giants, Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. But back in 2012, their focus was strictly on mainstream sports like soccer, basketball, and marathon running. Their t-shirts were boxy, made of stiff cotton or loose synthetic polyester, with long, baggy sleeves that completely hid the physique you were working so hard to build. There was literally nothing in between. There was no brand creating fitted, tapered, stretchy, modern athletic wear that complemented an aesthetic physique. Every time you looked in the mirror at the gym, you asked yourself, why hasn't anyone made this yet? Eventually, you stopped waiting for someone else to build it. You decided to create it yourself. Chapter 3: Grandma's Lesson and the $300 Sewing Machine. You didn't have startup capital. You didn't have investors. You had only the tips from your delivery jobs and the small residual income from your fitness app. You scraped together around $300 and bought a manual, hand-operated screen printer off the internet. Next, you purchased a second-hand industrial sewing machine. There was only one major obstacle. You had never touched a sewing machine in your entire life. You didn't let that stop you. You drove to your grandmother's house. Sitting side by side with your grandmother in her living room, you spent days patiently learning the fundamentals of textile craft. She taught you how to thread a needle, how to adjust fabric tension, how to hem a seam, and how to create durable lock stitches that wouldn't rip under physical strain. You transformed your parents' garage into a makeshift manufacturing plant. It was cold, damp, and cramped. To make room for your equipment, you had to shove your parents' lawnmower, toolboxes, and gardening supplies into the corner. You went to local fabric wholesalers, sourcing stretchy cotton and elastane blends. You would stand over a wooden folding table in the middle of winter, drawing cutting patterns onto cardboard, tracing them onto rolls of fabric, and cutting each panel out by hand with a pair of tailor's shears. Then you would sit at that second-hand machine for hours, stitching the fabric together seam by seam, before hand-pulling the screen printer to press your fledgling brand's logo onto the chest. It took you nearly 45 minutes to produce a single tank top. The margins were microscopic, and the work was exhausting. But every single shirt that came off that table was custom-made, perfectly fitted, and built with obsessive passion. Chapter 4: The 18-Hour Hustle. Between 2012 and 2013, your life became a relentless 18-hour test of mental and physical stamina. Your daily schedule was almost inhuman. 6 a.m., you woke up, drank black coffee, and hit the gym for a 2-hour workout. 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., you attended classes at Aston University, taking notes with one hand and sketching apparel designs in your notebook with the other. 3:30 p.m. to 10 p.m., you put on your Pizza Hut uniform, loaded hot thermal bags into your beat-up car, and delivered pizzas across the rough streets of Birmingham, calculating business expenses in your head between drop-offs. 10:30 p.m. to 3 a.m., you walked down into the cold garage, turned on the single bare light bulb, and started sewing, screen printing, folding, and packing orders into plastic mailers. You were sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night. You had grease on your hands, sawdust and fabric lint in your hair, and pizza sauce on your sneakers. At 2 a.m., when your eyes were bloodshot and your hands were aching from cutting fabric, Your mother would quietly open the garage door and bring you a hot cup of tea. She would look at the mountains of cloth and ask you if you were sure about what you were doing. The brand was making $30, maybe $40 a day. On some days, 0 orders came in. To an outsider, you looked completely irrational. You were sacrificing your sleep, your social life, and your grades for a few pounds of profit. But you weren't looking at where the business was today. You were looking at where it was going.
Chapter 5: The All-In BodyPower Gamble. By early 2013, after months of grueling labor in the garage, your brand had accumulated a grand total of roughly $3,000 in its bank account. That $3,000 represented every single pizza delivery tip, every late-night delivery shift, and every hand-sewn t-shirt you had sold over the past year. It was your entire safety net. Then, you heard about BodyPower Expo. Held right in your hometown at the Birmingham NEC, BodyPower was the largest, most prestigious fitness and bodybuilding exhibition in Europe. Tens of thousands of hardcore gym enthusiasts gathered there every May to see the latest supplements, equipment, and apparel. You checked the pricing for vendor space. A tiny, bare-bones 3x3-meter booth cost $3,000. Literally every single penny your company had in the world. Your friends warned you it was reckless. Your family told you that spending all of your cash on a 3-day event with no guaranteed return could destroy the business before it even started. If you failed to sell your inventory, you wouldn't have enough money to buy raw fabric for future orders. You would be dead in the water. You looked at your bank balance, took a deep breath, and wrote the check. Your bank balance was now 0. You had gone completely all in. Chapter 6: Inventing Influencer Marketing. Because you spent all your money on the booth, you had $0 left for advertising. You couldn't afford magazine ads, billboards, or fitness models. But you had something far more valuable: a deep, authentic understanding of internet culture. Back in 2013, the corporate marketing world didn't take YouTube seriously. Corporate executives viewed fitness YouTubers as amateurs filming videos in bad lighting. You saw them differently. You were a fan. You watched creators like Lex Griffin, Alon Gabbay, and Rob Lipsett every single day after your workouts. You knew that these creators had built something that multi-million-dollar marketing agencies could never manufacture: genuine trust and community. You didn't have the money to pay them sponsorship fees, so you did something entirely organic.
You hand-stitched, custom-fitted tracksuits, stringers, and hoodies tailored specifically to their body measurements. You packed each garment into a box with a personal, handwritten note. "Hey, I love your videos. You inspired me to start lifting. I started this small brand in my garage to make clothes that actually fit guys like us. No strings attached. I just wanted to send you some gear as a thank you for your content." There were no contracts, no legal agreements, and no demands for promotional posts. The creators were blown away. The clothes fit them better than anything they owned, and the gesture was authentic. They started wearing your gear in their daily workout vlogs for free. Then you took it one step further. You invited them to come to the BodyPower Expo and hang out at your tiny 3-meter booth. You offered to cover their travel and give them exclusive custom-made tracksuits. They agreed.
Chapter 7: Black Tuesday and the $42,000 explosion. When the doors to the NEC Arena opened at BodyPower 2013, what happened next shocked the entire fitness industry. While the massive, multi-million-dollar corporate booths with paid models stood half empty, a massive crowd of thousands of young lifters swarmed into your aisle. The queue stretched around the entire convention hall. Fans weren't there just to buy clothes. They were there to meet the YouTubers they watched every day
And those YouTubers were standing inside your booth, wearing your brand from head to toe. In a matter of hours, every single piece of clothing you had brought to the expo was completely sold out. People were begging to buy the display models off the mannequins. You and your friends spent the entire weekend overwhelmed, taking cash by hand and packing bags as fast as humanly possible. When the expo ended on Sunday evening, you drove home with empty boxes and a box full of cash. But the real test was yet to come. On Tuesday morning, you uploaded the remaining batch of newly designed fitted tracksuits to your website. You clicked publish and braced yourself. What happened in the next 30 minutes redefined your entire life. Your phone began vibrating nonstop with order notifications. The screen refreshed with dozens of sales every second. The payment processor struggled to handle the volume. Within 30 minutes, you generated $42,000 in sales. To put that into perspective, your company had generated barely $30,000 in its entire first year of existence. You had just surpassed a full year of revenue in less time than it takes to finish a workout. The website crashed under the weight of the traffic. You stood in your parents' living room, surrounded by piles of printed invoices that spilled across the floor. You looked at your university textbooks, looked at your Pizza Hut uniform, and realized there was no turning back. That week, you dropped out of university, walked into Pizza Hut to hand in your 2-week notice, and dedicated every breath to the company.
Chapter 8: The Black Friday Disaster. The brand exploded across social media. Sales doubled, tripled, and quadrupled month after month. You moved out of the garage and leased your first commercial warehouse. You were shipping thousands of packages across the UK, Europe, and the United States. But hypergrowth comes with a brutal price. When a company grows faster than its operational infrastructure can handle, it inevitably breaks. That breaking point came on Black Friday in 2015. You had spent months planning the sale. You built a custom proprietary e-commerce platform that was supposed to deliver a bespoke shopping experience. You spent tens of thousands on marketing, teased exclusive product drops, and built up massive global anticipation. At midnight, the sale went live. Hundreds of thousands of eager shoppers rushed to the site simultaneously. Within 3 minutes, the servers overheated, the database locked up, and the entire website crashed into total darkness. The website remained dead for 8 agonizing hours during the biggest shopping day of the year. Customers around the world were furious. They were locked out of their carts, orders were dropped, and social media comments flooded with thousands of angry, hostile messages, accusing the brand of being unprofessional and fraudulent. The estimated financial damage was devastating. Millions of dollars in lost revenue in a single day. Many young founders would have hidden behind corporate PR statements, blamed the hosting company, or deflected responsibility. You didn't. You sat down and spent the next 7 days working around the clock. You personally handwrote hundreds of apology letters to furious customers. You refunded orders, issued massive discount vouchers out of your own pocket, and published a transparent video taking full personal blame for the disaster. That radical honesty saved the company. Customers saw that behind the fast-growing brand was a genuine founder who cared deeply about the community. Loyalty surged to unprecedented levels.
Chapter 9: Stepping Down to Step Up. By late 2015, your company was generating tens of millions of dollars in annual sales. You were expanding into new continents, opening international distribution centers, and managing hundreds of employees. You were only 23 years old. One evening, sitting in your executive office, you took an honest, brutal look in the mirror. You realized you were a phenomenal product designer. You understood brand vision, creative marketing, and community building better than anyone in the industry. But you knew nothing about complex global supply chain logistics, corporate structuring, enterprise tax planning, or international legal compliance. Most founders let their ego run the show. They cling to the title of CEO, refuse to admit their shortcomings, and run their rapidly growing company straight into the ground. You chose humility over pride. You made the unprecedented decision to voluntarily step down as CEO of the company you created. You brought in a seasoned, experienced retail veteran named Steve Hewitt to take the chief executive seat and build out world-class operations. You demoted yourself to chief product officer. For the next 6 years, you sat in every executive meeting, not as the arrogant owner, but as a student. You watched how seasoned executives managed supply chains, negotiated global freight contracts, and built multinational organizational structures. You spent 6 years mastering the business from the inside out.
Chapter 10: The Cult of Community. While legacy corporate brands spent hundreds of millions on traditional TV commercials and athlete billboards, you continued to double down on community. You pioneered the concept of experiential, non-transactional pop-up stores called We Do Gym. You rented massive warehouse spaces in central London, New York City, Los Angeles, Toronto, and Sydney. But you didn't set them up like regular retail stores. You built indoor gyms, brought in world-class athlete ambassadors, set up lifting platforms, and opened the doors for free. Fans didn't just show up to buy clothing. They camped outside on sidewalks in the freezing rain for up to 12 hours just to train with their idols and be part of the movement. You had transformed a simple apparel company into a global tribe. People weren't just buying your shirts to wear to the gym. They were wearing them as an identity, a declaration that they were dedicated to self-improvement.
Chapter 11: The $1.4 billion Unicorn. By 2020, the entire world was hit by unprecedented global disruptions. High street retail stores were going bankrupt, and legacy apparel companies were collapsing under the weight of empty shopping malls. Your company, built entirely on digital-first e-commerce and an unshakable community, saw its growth accelerate at light speed. In August 2020, prestigious private equity powerhouse General Atlantic stepped in. They acquired a 21% minority stake in the business. The transaction officially valued the company at over $1.3 billion, £1+ billion. The company achieved elusive unicorn status, built from scratch, funded entirely by its own profits with zero institutional debt. At age 28, you became one of the youngest self-made billionaires in British history. And having spent 6 years mastering every corner of global business operations, you stepped back into your rightful place, resuming your role as the full-time chief executive officer.
Chapter 12: The Reveal and the Lesson. Today, if you walk down Regent Street in London, one of the most prestigious luxury shopping districts in the world, alongside heritage fashion houses that have existed for centuries, you will see an enormous, multi-story flagship store buzzing with thousands of customers every single day. That global fitness movement is Gymshark. Those early YouTube creators who stood at your tiny expo booth were Lex Griffin, Alon Gabai, and Rob Lipsett. The seasoned leader who guided your early hypergrowth was Steve Hewitt. And that 19-year-old pizza delivery boy who was told his dreams were impossible, who sat beside his grandmother learning to thread a needle, and who stitched his first 20 shirts by hand in a damp garage with grease on his fingers, was Ben Francis. Ben's journey proves one timeless truth. You don't need millions in venture capital to start. You don't need an elite pedigree, a prestigious degree, or permission from gatekeepers. All you need is a genuine problem to solve, the humility to learn what you don't know, and the unrelenting obsession to keep working while the rest of the world is asleep. So whatever idea you're holding on to tonight in your bedroom, your garage, or your car, stop overthinking, turn on the machine, and just start.